Hashem Na'aseh v'Natzliach, Shiur Torah, Baruch Hashem. Good to be back. We're continuing the series, the MUSSAR Pirkei Avot. We are at number 153. This is the fifth lecture about this specific mishna. We did the first one about, this is Mishnah 6.6, which in Pirkei Avot. First one we did about what's a melech, what's a king, talked about Mashiach. Second one was about the Kehuna, the Kohanim. What does it really mean to be a Kohen today, in the past? Who are the Kohanim today, aside from the ones that are called Kohen, that are sometimes not even Jewish? And then the last couple of shiurim have been about the real Jewish kings of today, which is the people that are fulfilling the Torah and mitzvot. So the Mishnah here is talking about the 48 kinyanim, 48 different prerogatives that a person needs to acquire in order to actually be a real Ben Torah. This is not something that you can buy in a store, and it's also not something you can buy overnight. It's things that you acquire throughout your life as you get closer and closer to the ultimate level. Today's shiur will also be for Ilui Nishmat David Mizrahi ben Masuda, the Rav Yosef Mizrahi's father. May Hashem have mercy on him and bring him in the highest level of Gan Eden, Bezod Hashem, especially with the schuyot of his son, Rav Mizrahi, the giant Mezakei Rabim of our generation. Also will be for Ilui Nishmat Alice bat Chaninya, and Refuah Shlema to Chaim ben Sarah, Rab Ephraim ben Shulamit, Sarah bat Anat, Levana bat Sarah, Dvora bat Mercedes, Elisheva Chaya bat Sarah, and Yochevet bat Batya. Bezrat Hashem will have Refuah Shlema, Refuat HaNefesh, Refuat HaGuf. So the Mishnah here is giving us very specific instructions of how to get to the promised land, how to get to the ultimate level. We'll go over the Mishnah again briefly and then start with some of the new things. גדולה תורה יותר מן הכהונה ומן המלכות, שהמלכות נקנית ב-30 מעלות, והכהונה נקנית ב-24, והתורה נקנית ב-48 דברים, ואלו הן בתלמוד תורה, בשמיעת האוזן, בעריכת שפתיים, בבינת הלב, בסכלות הלב, באימה, ביראה, בענווה, בשמחה, בטהרה, בשימוש חכמים. Continues, but hopefully we'll get to even what I just read, and I'll read it in English. The Torah is even greater than priesthood or royalty, meaning someone that actually has Torah, that learns Torah, that knows what he's talking about, that has acquired these 48 traits, is considered even on a higher level than someone that's a Kohen or someone that's a king. The crown of Torah is the highest of all crowns. Why? Because royalty is acquired through 30 prerogatives. There's 30 things that a king gets or needs to do in order to be a king. But this is something that can only be acquired through family. Meaning you can't be a king just because you decide that you're going to have better laws than the last guy. It's not a democracy. Judaism is not a democracy. In fact, Judaism is the opposite of democracy. So when it comes to kinghood, the only way someone can be a king is if his father was a king. David HaMelech was a king that Hashem picked. Shaul HaMelech, Hashem picked him. All of the kings are picked by Hashem, but in general, once the king dies, Hashem allows their child, their son, to be the king. And that's why from Malchut David, each of the kings that followed, the righteous kings that followed, were from the lineage of David HaMelech. Now the Kehuna, the priesthood, the Kohen Gadol, has 24 gifts. So it's not necessarily 24 things that he has to acquire that are difficult. It's really 24 things that are given to them. Some of them are gifts that, for example, specific korbanot, or place where they live, but some of them are actually restrictions. for example, if somebody has a birth defect, a birthmark, or anything like that, cannot be a Kohen Gadol. Cannot be. Is it his fault that he has a birthmark? You're going to say no. Why? Because logically we're saying he's born with it. But there's no such thing as he's not at fault. Everything that happens to a person has to be his fault. It's nobody else's fault. So how could it be? How could it be his fault that he has a birthmark? This goes into what the Arizal calls Gilgulim, or the Torah calls Gilgulim, which is reincarnation. Reincarnation means that each one of our neshamot was here before. Each one of our neshamot was here at Mount Sinai. And that neshama, if it did not complete its tikkun, it did not complete its mission, had to come back again. How many times do you come back? I used to think it was only 3 times, because there's a ma'amar that you're supposed to only come 3 times and that's it. But that's not actually true. You can come back much more than 3 times. All depends on what the tikkun is, and also it doesn't necessarily mean that the entire neshama comes back. Sometimes only the part, there's certain parts of a person that were fixed. So it doesn't come back. So for example, if a person fixed his tikkun of eyes, like he, in his previous tikkun, he was looking at girls, he was looking at immodesty, he was looking at anything that moves. Then he had to come back, and he fixed it. But now if he fixes it, and he comes back to the world again because he still didn't fix something else. He didn't fix something else. He's still, let's say, for example, stingy or arrogant or whatever he was. He didn't fix it. So Hashem is not going to give him the eyes test again. So he could bring him to the world either with no eyes, he could be blind, or he could simply not have the desire, the same like other people do. He's able to control it, has much more strength. There are certain people that have much more strength when it comes to controlling their eyes, or other things. So the point is that the priest that has the birth defect, it is his fault because it is something that is connected to his previous carnation, previous Gilgul. So that's why if he has a birth defect, that has to do with what happened to him in his previous incarnation. He usually has that birth, some person has a defect somewhere that something happened. Anyway, the Torah continues and says that the Torah is acquired by means of 48 qualities. Meaning if you want to acquire the crown of Torah, you have to acquire these 48 qualities. 24 of them are things that are relevant to the person's personality. How a person can fix their personality, refine their character, become a better person, become a better vessel in order to accept the Torah. Because it's not just about reading a book and then you're going to have it. It's about also being able to understand it, which has to do with our behavior, which we talked about on Sunday. There are many people today that you can give them a shiur, not for 2 hours, but for 2,000 hours. And they won't understand a single word that you're saying. They won't understand. Some of them even went to yeshiva. You give them a shiur for 1,000 hours, they still won't understand a single thing that you're saying. And it has nothing to do with them being stupid. Some of them are very smart, they're architects, they're engineers, they're very good at something else. But they have a mental block caused by a spiritual block as a result of specific sins they make. So one thing that I could only know from experience, I've read it in the Torah, but to see it in real life was very surprising for me, is that because I did quite a few lectures about Pgam Brit, a lot of people, both frum, not frum, Jews, non-Jews, come to me with this problem. A lot of people come to me with this problem, that they have this addiction and they didn't realize that they have this, that it's such a big problem according to Hashem until they saw the shiur. Baruch Hashem, thousands and thousands of people have watched the shiurim about Pgam Brit, and many of them have contacted me, and I've helped some of them on a personal basis, with specific catered advice and sometimes even daily chizuk to overcome some of these obstacles. But there are once in a blue, it fails miserably. Once in a while, not often, I think only on Baruch Hashem, only 2 cases. One for sure, and one I'm not so sure if it's a real complete failure, but it failed. The system failed. Why did it fail? Torah is real. The system is real. Everything is good. What failed? They simply didn't want to stop. They didn't want to stop. They liked the sin too much. They liked the sin to the point where even when they started finding out that the sin is actually literally killing them, not figuratively speaking, literally killing them, like they're dying. Like this one particular person is mamash dying. And he knows it's from this. It's not a secret. It's not like, oh, Yaron Reuven is creating. No, it's mamash. He knows. Like he literally, every day he dies a little bit more. Just like we said in the first year we had in New York about it. He's destroying his body. And it's a known thing. His hair is almost gone. And he's only in his 20s. His body, mamash, he looks like he has chemotherapy. He looks like he has cancer. Looks like he has cancer. Mamash, he looks like he has cancer, but he doesn't, Baruch Hashem. What does he have? He has an addiction to wasting seed. But the addiction is so bad that he's killing himself, that even when I talk to him, it's a complete waste of time. Why? Because once a person wastes seed to such an extent, they simply make themselves spiritually stupid. Where you can talk to them until you're blue in the face. They don't understand what you're saying. It's coming here, going out there. Sometimes it won't even come in here. It's just completely rejected. They just don't understand. Or even when you tell them something, they will find out the exact opposite. Like they will understand the exact opposite of the message. Tell them, oh, by the way, the sky is blue. It's like, yeah, burgundy is amazing. No, it's blue. I know, burgundy. Look, it's beautiful. No, blue. Blue, chamor, blue. Burgundy. You know what? You should get a burgundy shirt. It's like you feel like you're talking to somebody crazy. But they're not crazy. They're just sick. And until I saw this with my own eyes, I didn't believe it. It says in the Torah, v'nitmetem bam. Rashi says, v'netamtem. But that says it about food. But the Chachamim say it's also about sins, the rest of sins. If you eat non-kosher food, it makes you spiritually stupid. But Chachamim say it's also other sins, not just food, non-kosher food, other sins also make you spiritually stupid. But especially the big ones. So you read it in a book, and you believe, but you never see it. You don't see everything. This is one of those things where, mamash, you see it. And I'm telling you, the guys that either fall off and you never hear from them again, or the guys that are constantly fighting you, or come up with like the craziest, strangest arguments of why the sin is allowed. Why? Because they're still sinning. They never stopped. They're just trying to find a way to make themselves feel better about it. And until I saw with my own eyes how mamash they become spiritually stupid, I didn't feel bad for them. I would get upset. I'm like, come on, well, you don't get the point. You don't get it. Now I feel bad for them. I feel terrible. Because it's almost like a hopeless case. Almost. It's not hopeless, almost hopeless. Because he's still alive. That means it's still hopeful. But it's almost like a hopeless case because the information you're going to give them, it doesn't matter how hard it is. It doesn't matter. You can start telling them about all the medorot of Gehenom and what happens in the first level and the second level and the third level, and they do this to you and they do that to you, and all the scariest stuff in the world. And they'll get scared. 15 minutes later, they're sinning again. Sometimes they're sinning as a result of being scared. Because the fear, sometimes they're so scared, they're like, oh, you know what? I need to calm down. I have too much anxiety. And they'll sin because of that. It's mamash. It's like the opposite effect. And it's sad. But these are rare cases. Out of all the people, Baruch Hashem, all the people, there's only maybe two. One for sure, that's really almost a lost case. And the other one, it's like a safek. Safek whether it's a lost case. But the crown of Torah, Rabotai Ikarim, is not acquired simply by reading books. It's not acquired by simply attending lectures. It's not acquired by simply giving tzedakah. It's not acquired by anything simply. The crown of Torah is acquired through toil, through difficulty, through struggle of trying to get the most important thing in this world. First, we have to appreciate it for being the most important thing in the world, and then we have a chance of acquiring it. But the first 24 out of the 48 talk about refining a person's character. The other 24 are really more about the intellect and the methodology of how to acquire them, meaning the studying hard, being very dedicated, and so on and so forth. So until now, we started going into some of them. We said that the Torah first starts with Talmud, studying. If you're not going to study Torah, you're not going to know anything. The most common question that I get about some of the more scarier shiurim like Gehenom or wasting seed and Yirat Shamayim, most common question that I get probably, I don't know, for every shiur, I don't know, a few hundred times it seems like. Emails, text messages, comments on the internet, Facebook, YouTube, whatever it is. People ask the same question over and over again. Why don't they teach this at yeshiva? Why don't they teach this in shul? Why don't they teach this in kollel? Why don't they teach this anywhere else? How come you're the first guy I ever heard say this? How come you're the second guy I ever heard say this? How come it's not 1,000 rabbanim screaming their lungs out with tears coming down their face, crying for Klal Yisrael, Hashem Yachem, Yom Echaleh Shabbat, Hashem's going to do this, Hashem's going to do that. That's really what it should be. In reality, it should be all of the rabbanim in the world crying 24 hours a day. That's really what we should be doing. Crying 24 hours a day for Klal Yisrael, because almost 80% are Mechaleh Shabbat. Once a person's a Mechaleh Shabbat, the rest of the Torah doesn't make a difference if he keeps it or not. If he dies a Mechaleh Shabbat, even if he kept everything else, it's in the garbage. But there are also 35 other issues that if he does those, doesn't make a difference even if he keeps Shabbat. One of them is wasting seed. A person wastes seed even if he keeps Shabbat. Nothing's going to help him. There are 36 specific sins where a person does them, has no share of the world to come unless he does tshuva. If he does tshuva, Baruch haba, Gan Eden, Olam haba, everything is good, we love you. But if a person commits these sins and does not do tshuva for them, no one can help him. No rabbi, no mekubal, no chassid, no nothing. Not his mom, not his dad, not his sister. It doesn't make a difference. He can be related directly to Moshe Rabbeinu. It's not going to help him. It's not going to help him. Why? Hashem said it in the Torah. In order for Hashem to change the Torah for you, it's not going to happen. He's going to make him a liar. So, in reality, people ask me, wait a minute, you're telling me there's 36 karet. 36 things that are karet. Karet means cut off from Olam Haba. No Olam Haba. You lend a Jew money, charge him interest, no Olam Haba. You eat on Yom Kippur, no Olam Haba. You eat chametz on Pesach, no Olam Haba. Mechaleh Shabbat, no Olam Haba. And so on and so forth. The list goes on, scarier and scarier. So they ask me the same question. Why doesn't anybody else say this? Meaning, with the exception of Rav Mizrahi Sheikhye, Rav Zitron, a few others, that's it. If you calculate the percentages, it's an embarrassment. It's probably not, I would say, if I don't know how many rabbis are speak English, I would say it's probably not even 1%. It's probably not even 1% of the rabbis actually say, Mechaleh Shabbat, Mot Yumad, no Olam Haba. This is the biggest tragedy in Judaism. In reality, someone that knows everything I just told you, because he read Masechet Shabbat, because he read Alchot Shabbat, because he just knows anything, he read Parashat Shavua, should cry for Am Yisrael. In reality, all of the rabbis should gather together and just cry. How long? Forever. Until everybody starts doing tshuva. That's what should happen. So we ask, how come they don't say this? Unfortunately, Rabotai, there are many, many reasons, and all of them are bad. There are many reasons why people don't say it, and all of them are bad. There's no legitimate excuse not to say it. Some of the reasons are monetary. Some of the reasons are political correctness and the desire to be popular. Some of the reasons are simply because they don't believe it themselves. There are actually some rabbis that themselves are most likely atheists. So, I can't tell you the reasons for every rabbi, but I can tell you, generally speaking, the people that find the truth, the people that hear these lectures and decide that they have to do something about it, at some point along the way, usually in the beginning, they ask themselves, why didn't my rabbi say it? Why didn't somebody else tell me? Like, how come I never heard this? It's a very common question. And it's sad. It's very, very sad. One of the other reasons that, again, only through experience I had to learn this. My Rav told me this a long time ago, but again, these are some of the things that you're never going to, take to heart until you see it. And it's going to sound strange, stranger than the other things. Because if I told you somebody's not going to tell you the truth because they want your money, and they know that if they tell you the truth, most likely you're not going to give them any money. You're not going to donate because they make you feel bad about yourself. So that's understandable. Every normal person understands this. People want to go to Tony Robbins. Why? He makes you feel good about yourself. People want to go to all these self-help gurus. Why? Because they make you feel good. People like to give money to things that make them feel good. Somebody tells you, by the way, you should do tshuva. That doesn't necessarily always make a person feel good. Makes them feel like they're lacking. So if I told you money is the reason, it's very easy to understand. If I told you political correctness is the reason, it's even easier to understand. Why? Because people are scared to say certain things because they want to be popular and they don't want to offend anyone. They're so scared about offending you, and they're not really sure if you know or you don't know, so they're just going to pretend like it doesn't exist. These are things that are easy to understand. The part that was very hard for me to understand is that they simply are clueless. That the first darga of limud Torah, they don't have. We have 48 things that you have to have in order to acquire Torah. The first one was limud, Talmud, learning, dedicated learning. I don't know about all the rabbis, but I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that every single person that goes against the emet doesn't know what he's talking about at all. He's never finished the Shas. He probably maybe doesn't even know what the Shas is. He probably learned maybe a few parts of Halachot Shabbat, but not the whole thing. Rambam, forget about it. Maybe he read like a few things on the internet. He read just enough to maybe pass a test, maybe not. Maybe he passed the test, maybe he didn't. What is it like? It's like you just passed the Regents in New York in chemistry, but you don't really know anything about chemistry. You just know enough to pass the test. You passed the test for your biology class, but in reality, if somebody told you to dissect a frog, you can start vomiting just thinking about it. Why? Because what's for you in biology? You're out of your mind. You just passed the math test or English test, but in reality, somebody tells you, can you teach it to somebody? It's like, teach what? No, what you just passed. No, it's all memory. I just remembered a few things and I passed the test. So what do you actually know? Nothing. As soon as you finish the test, deleted. Like a beeper. Like your voicemail messages that you don't want to answer, you just delete them. Same thing. Deleted. I am telling you, Rabotai, this was the hardest thing for me to understand. How can somebody be a manhig of a keilah, a rabbi, a so-called rabbi, sometimes a speaker, and not know anything? Until I started seeing it with my own eyes. And you start saying some of the things of what these people are saying. I ask my rabbi all the time, is this in the Torah? He says, no. Is this in the Torah? No. Is that in the Torah? No. Where is it from? He goes, maybe in a comic book. Maybe he found it in a comic book, maybe in a newspaper. It's not in the Torah. And now, you can double check other rabbis, you can check other books. Not in Torah, not in Torah. Remember the whole thing that happened with Pittsburgh? You can't forget. That everybody cried out loud, oh, it's Kiddush Hashem, Kiddush Hashem. The Rambam said it's Kiddush Hashem. One rabbi said, I wanted to check, where is this Rambam? So I asked the rabbi that said on big screen, that's Kiddush Hashem, because the Rambam said it. And the rabbi said, I can't find it in the Rambam. So I called the rabbi, called him, hey, Kvod Harav, you said in your shiur, your Rosh Yeshiva, you're Chashuv, Ish Chashuv. You're not like some Am Haaretz. You're a Rosh Yeshiva, a big yeshiva. You're a big Rosh Yeshiva. You did a big shiur, thousands and thousands of views and so on. Shook up the world. You gave everybody the good feeling, good comforting in their stomach that it's Kiddush Hashem, they all died, right? Because you said the Rambam said it. Where is the Rambam? The Rosh Yeshiva responded, there is no such Rambam. But everybody thinks there's such a Rambam, so I said it. There's no Rambam that says that somebody that dies because he's a Jew is Kiddush Hashem. There's no such thing. We looked through the entire Rambam. before we found this out, because we didn't know that this is actually happening. We looked at ourselves, Rambam doesn't exist. We said, oh, maybe there's some Rambam Ganuz, like there's a book of the Rambam that no one ever heard about, and he's the only one that has the copy. And he shared it with all the other ones that made a lecture about it. They're all there. All these people, they have this Rambam, except everybody else. Doesn't exist. Rabotai, the saddest thing for me, personally, was seeing this Talmud, this study, confirmation, come to life, where you realize that most people today simply don't know anything. Anything. They don't know that much more than a secular person. They don't know that much more than a person that just converted. Sometimes they know much less than a person that just converted. They don't know that much more than a Baal Tshuva of a few years that actually learns. And many times my Talmidim ask their rabbis about, oh, did you hear such and such? I heard it from Rabbi Reuven on a shiur. No, where is it? And he shows them, oh, wow, okay, nice. Okay, chidush, okay, that's good. It doesn't mean you have to know everything. But every week, I never heard this, never heard this, never heard. What did you hear then? What did you hear? So, this is not everybody, obviously. There are many Talmidei Chachamim in the world. But it doesn't seem like they're making many lectures. It seems like a lot of people that are steering people away from Yirat Shamayim are doing it with the same system, which is they're helping people stay ignorant because they're ignorant themselves. They don't know anything themselves. Because anyone that reads Torah immediately figures out, without being a big chacham, without having even a big rabbi, that Hashem wants you to fear Him. There's even certain mitzvot in the Torah that are purely based on fear. For example, the Gemara asks, why did Hashem create the thunder? Like, what good does a thunder do in the world? Like, lightning, you can say it is certain, maybe, I don't know, Hashem likes the way it looks. Or maybe He wants to show us how it looks. Or maybe it creates certain damage in the world that comes through lightning. Somebody gets hit by lightning, Hashem Yachem. Lightning can start fires. So you can start rationalizing there's a use in the world for lightning. But thunder, there's no use. What does thunder do? Scare you. That's the reason why He created it. That's the reason why He created it. That's what the Gemara says. Why did Hashem create thunder? To scare you. That's it. It's the only purpose it has in the world. World starts shaking, you feel like the whole thing is breaking. Perfect. Get scared. So, there are certain mitzvot like this. There are certain psukim in the Torah that Hashem says, what do I want from you other than to fear me? And so on and so forth. So anyone that actually reads Torah arrives at the same conclusion, which means that anyone that arrives at a different conclusion simply did not learn, which is the first requirement of this Keter Torah. Now, the list continues with Shmiat HaOzen, obviously being very attentive, not listening to a shiur and music at the same time, not only listening to shiurim after you go to sleep, making sure that you pay attention, making sure that you're very selective with who you pay attention to also. Arichat Sfatayim, if you're going to teach, if you're going to speak, if you're going to explain, make sure that your speech is articulate, it's clear, intuitive understanding, look into things carefully. Don't just take things at face value, look into things deeper. Discernment, going over things over and over again until you understand them. And then we arrive at the next couple of things, which is where we're at, which is Be'ema u'Be'ira. Awe and reverence. In essence, Yirat Shamayim. This is where we are in this list. And Chazal tells us endless amount of teachings about the necessity of Yirat Shamayim. What is Yirat Shamayim in practice? Like, I can tell you a lot of things, but what does Yirat Shamayim in, let's say, for example, in your day-to-day life look like? The Steipler Gaon Rav Yaakov Kanievsky, alav shalom, he said that if somebody walked into his bet midrash, just walked into it, didn't go up to him and talk to him, if he was a mechalel Shabbat, the stipler already knew, and he would start screaming to kick the person out. He didn't have to see them. He didn't have to shake their hand. He didn't have to talk to them. As soon as the person walked into the room, if he was a mechalel Shabbat, he already knew, and he would start yelling to get this person out. And it happened several times. Now, you can say that, oh, maybe it's a fairy tale, maybe it's not, hard to believe. What does Yirat Shamayim look like for a person that got to that level? When he was already in his 80s, he had problems with his legs for many years, but by the time he was in his 80s, they would literally take a liter of liquid out of his knees every so often. When you have problems with your knees, it builds up a lot of liquid. It's very painful, and the only way to get rid of it is literally to take it out. And it would take out a liter of liquid out of his knees every so often, an immense amount of pain and suffering from his legs, aside from many other things. But one of his Talmidim witnessed this story, and he says that when he was already in his 80s, suffering from pain, he still lived in a house that still had several, long stairway downstairs. And one time, he went down the stairs, and as soon as he got to the bottom stair, he didn't realize, but there was a huge puddle. And his foot went into the puddle, got really, really wet. Now, to an average person, it's like, oh, too bad. Okay, just go upstairs. Change socks, maybe change shoes. Go back to wherever you were going. You're going to shul, you're going somewhere else. That's what it would mean to a normal person that has no Yirat Shamayim whatsoever, or knowledge what this actually means. What does this actually mean? The disciple Gaon realized that there is a isur from the Torah to squeeze out the water. If, let's say, for example, you had some type of sponge that has water in it, or a towel that has water in it, and if you squeeze it and the water comes out, it's an isur from the Torah. It's like lighting fire. That's why, for example, any woman that washes dishes on Shabbat, you should only use the nets. Don't ever use a sponge. Why? Because if you use a sponge, you're violating Shabbat. So use nets. So there's different nets that have holes where they don't retain any water. It's also part of the reason of why we're not allowed to take showers, cold or hot, on Shabbat. Because there's a fear that the towel will get wet enough to the point where if you squeeze it, water will come out. But anyway, he, in his 80s already, he's old, he's in pain, and he just stepped into a puddle, and his sock is really wet. What did he do? He did something that alvai one day we would do also. But he did it, and we're just talking about it. He realized that he not only has to change a sock, but he cannot step on his sock. So he had to hop on one leg all the way back upstairs. But if that wasn't enough, he then realized once he got upstairs that even if, now okay, this torture, pain that he just went through in 80-something years old, on one leg, that barely worked when it's perfect anyway, if that's not enough, wait a minute, if I take the shoe off, just the action of taking the shoe may squeeze the sock. Now, even though technically you don't mean to, and there's many poskim that could do a psak and say, no, it's you didn't mean to squeeze it, so therefore it's not really a sin. He psak, that doesn't make a difference. You know it's going to happen. You know it's going to happen, therefore you're not allowed to do it. It's like saying, you know that the chicken's going to die if you chop its head off. So don't, you can't just decide, no, I'm going to only chop its head off. I'm not going to kill the whole chicken. No, it's going to die. You know it's going to die. You know that it's going to squeeze the sock if you take off the shoe. So what did he do? He made sure that his leg was hanging the whole Shabbat until Motzei Shabbat. and no one's touching it, and no one's nothing. He had to make sure that his leg is hanging the entire Shabbat. So chas v'shalom, the sock that got wet by accident when you're 80-something years old with problems in your legs doesn't get squeezed, and a little bit of water maybe gets squeezed out. That's Yirat Hashem. That's fear of Hashem. That is the highest level of fear of Hashem that a person should aspire to in this generation. But the reality is, if we simply just stop sinning, that's already enough for most people. At least the intentional ones. Now, all of the stories of the tzaddikim, some of the miracles they performed, some of the blessings that came true, and so on and so forth are amazing. But none of them ever attained any of that without fear of Hashem. No one can attain anything in Torah without basic level fear of Hashem. And this is what the Mishnah is trying to tell us, that first and foremost, a person must have awe. What is this awe? The awe and the reverence that a person is supposed to have is that any time he's faced with whether it's learning Torah or teaching Torah or even praying, it's over here. The person needs to think of the fact that he is now going to meet Hashem. What does it mean to meet Hashem? So the Gemara in Masechet Brachot gives us a little bit of insights. What does Hashem really expect of us? The Gemara in Masechet Brachot, page 22a, says that when a person learns Torah, it says the Tanya, "V'odatem levanecha ulivnei vanecha, uktiv b'torah, yom asher amat lifnei Adonai Elohecha bechorev, ma le'alan be'ema u'ira u'beretet u'bezia." The Gemara says, make sure to teach your children and your grandchildren to follow what's written. That they should behave as if they are in a day that you stood before Hashem, your God, at Mount Chorev, at Mount Sinai. And from this we learn that when a person learns or teaches Torah, he has to have fear and awe and trembling, just like Am Yisrael had when they were literally at Mount Sinai. And Rashi specifies, with respect to study and teaching of Torah, in any generation, it must be done with dread and awe and trembling with fear. So this is not Yaron Reuven. This Rashi came a little bit before me, about 900 years before me. Rashi says in any generation, he specifically writes, any generation, if you're going to learn Torah, if you're going to follow Torah, if you're going to fulfill a mitzvah, if you're going to pray at shul, you have to do it with dread and trepidation, trembling with fear. Not jump around, break dance in the middle of the shul, start getting everybody all amped up. Yeah, Mashiach. No, it doesn't say any of that. It says, if you actually understand, Hashem is here. That Hashem was also here at Mount Sinai. At Mount Sinai, Am Yisrael was so scared, they all died. Twice. And Hashem had to bring them back from the dead. That's how scared they were. Rashi says, we're supposed to be that scared. Why we become scared at all? But the point is, Rashi says we're supposed to be as scared as if we are at Mount Sinai. When? Shiur, right now. Instead of you being scared of my face because, what can I do? God created me this way. You have to be scared of the Torah that I'm saying to you. Why? Because God's here. That's how scared a person is supposed to be. Regular shiur. Regular, you're reading parasha. You're reading a little mishnah. You're reading a halacha. A couple halachot every day. A person is supposed to have such level of fear as if, mamash, God is next to him watching. No, did you get that? Did you understand that, my son? Did you understand every word? Or are you thinking about your kids, your mortgage, your business, the stock market went down, the stock market went... What are you thinking about, my son? Well, he's not going to ask because he knows. But this is how much fear a person needs to have. This Gemara Masechet Brachot, anybody that actually knows what the Shas is, starts with it. You start with Masechet Brachot. Which means that unless a person simply skipped over this page or half the Masechet, you would know that Yirat Shamayim is the foundation of everything. And if you read Rashi, which you're supposed to, because without Rashi we simply don't understand anything, you would answer the very, very famous question that people ask me every day, at least once a day. Are you sure this stuff is relevant to our lowly generation? You know, we have such big tikkunim, we have such big tests, we have iPhones and pornography and the internet and the Facebooks, and no one wears clothes anymore. The previous generation's clothes that were underwear, today is outerwear. Like, that's a big test for guys, it's a big test for girls, it's a big test for everybody. So are you sure this is for everyone? Rashi answered it. He literally said, any generation. Any generation includes us too. Any generation includes us too. This is why in the Torah, it constantly says in many places, le'olam. Le'olam means eternally. So no one should ever say or ever think that there's anything in the Torah that's no longer relevant to us. The only reason why we're not obligated to bring korbanot right now, bring sacrifices right now for every sin we make or other reasons, is not because it's not relevant. It's because we're anusim. We can't do it because we are not allowed to do it without a Bet HaMikdash. If and when the Bet HaMikdash, the third Bet HaMikdash, is built, immediately, all of us have to go get some cows and bring korbanot to Bet HaMikdash. Immediately. Like, you can't wait. Oh, I'll do it next week. I'll do it next month. I'll do it next month. And when I get to it, I'll save some money. Everybody has to start bringing cows. Go bring korbanot. On a regular basis. You made sins? More korbanot. The only reason we're not bringing korbanot right now is because we don't have a Bet HaMikdash. So what do? We pray. We pray instead. But as soon as the Bet HaMikdash is built, we have to go back to bring korbanot. Every single thing in the Torah has to be relevant because the Gemara in Masechet Megillah says, how many prophets did Am Yisrael have throughout history? And the Gemara answers, at least double the amount of men that left Mitzrayim. Torah says 600,000 men between the age of 20 and 60 left Mitzrayim. So the Gemara says at least double that were prophets, Nevi'im, meaning 1.2 million. So the following question is, okay, where is the Torah? Where's the teachings? Where's the life? Where's the history? Where's even the names of these 1.2 million people? All we have in our Tanakh, the entire Tanakh, is 55 prophets. A total of 55 prophets. Where are the rest of them? Hashem responds to the sages and he says, the only Torah that you have is the one that's relevant to you and to every generation. Meaning, yes, there were many, many prophets that spoke to God, that Hashem gave them prophecy, but their prophecy was only relevant to their generation. Meaning that anything that we know about, that's in our Tanakh, the 55 prophets that we have, any verse that's written in the Tanakh, is not only talking about the generation that the story is about, per se, but rather it's talking to us today, 2,000, 3,000 years later. Anything we have in the Torah is relevant to us today. That's the answer for anyone that wants to know, is it relevant to us today? Are we at that level anymore? Are we not at that level? This is the clearest answer there is. Rashi starts it, and obviously the Gemara even before that. So the whole issue of having Yirat Shamayim, it's not something that a certain generation has or doesn't have. Of course, we're not even capable of having the Yirat Shamayim and wisdom that the sages had in previous generation, but that doesn't mean that we can't get to a very high level ourselves, or at least obligated to try. Now, Rabbi Chaim Itzanz prayed one day that he wanted Hashem to give him a gift. What gift? He wanted Hashem to give him a feeling of Yirat Shamayim like the Rambam had. When he was working as a doctor on Goyim. He didn't want the one that he has when he's working on Jews, because that must be too high for me. When the Rambam is working on a Jew, when anyone knows that a Jew, a righteous Jew, is like the entire world, so that's probably too high of a Yirat Shamayim. So I want to have, Rabbi Chaim Itzan says, no, I want to have the Yirat Shamayim that the Rambam had when he was working as a doctor, healing a stomach ache, a headache, a finger ache, or something, on just some goy, some Egyptian. I want to have a feeling like that. He prayed to Hashem. This is what tzaddikim pray for. We pray for cars and houses and stuff. Tzaddikim pray for Yirat Shamayim. Well, he got the Yirat Shamayim, but no one saw him at the Bet Midrash that day. No one saw him at the Bet Knesset either. In fact, no one saw him until the next day. Why? Hashem gave him that Yirat Shamayim, and he said, I had that Yirat Shamayim. I was so scared, I was too scared to get out of the covers, out of my bed. And he was crying hysterical the entire day for Hashem to remove it from him. I don't want this Yirat Shamayim. Please Hashem, I'm too scared. He says I was crying like a baby the whole day, because Hashem gave me, for one day, the Yirat Shamayim of the Rambam. When he was working on Goyim. People think that the Rambam is just a name, the book was just written, it's just a bunch of words, and they simply don't understand what does it mean to be one of the people that we call Chazal. Now, the Maharal says that awe is a clear understanding of how removed and elevated God's Torah is from human perception. And reverence is a fear engendered by focusing on somebody's own spiritual puniness. Somebody's own spiritual puniness in comparison to the vast wisdom in the Torah. If Maharal was here talking, they would probably kick him out of shul. It's a very politically incorrect statement to call people puny. But in reality, this is what a person needs to do in order to inherit Torah. To realize first and foremost, it's bigger than you. If you're not understanding something, if something doesn't make sense to you in the Torah, it sounds weird to you that they would kill a little boy because he's only 12 years old, because he's called a Ben Sorer Umoreh, and he's a wayward child, and they would kill him, and it doesn't make any sense to you. Or the eye for an eye, some people think it's money, some people think it's physical, it's obviously money, or some things don't make sense to you, of why we're not allowed to marry certain people, why we're not allowed to eat certain things. Some of these things don't make sense to you. The Maharal says, if you want real Torah, know that the problem is with you, not the Torah. The lacking is our lacking. It's not the Torah lacking. That's the first step. Anytime a person gets to a state of confusion about something that Hashem said, immediately he should look at himself and say, how come I don't have the merit to understand this? Not, no, this doesn't make sense. No, I think there's something wrong here. Yes, what's wrong is you. There's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with us. We don't understand. And the Maharal is trying to explain to us that a person needs to know how puny they are in comparison to the vast wisdom of the Torah. that whatever idea you think you came up with, the Torah already has it generations and generations before you were even an idea. Now I learned with my Rav, Sefer Hasidim says something very, very interesting. It says that nature, the way that Hashem created the world, is that there's no way, no natural way, according to the rules of Hashem, for a goy to desecrate a Bet Knesset unless a Jew desecrated it first. You're never going to see a goy come and burn a Sefer Torah inside a Bet Knesset that everyone is tzaddikim. It's never going to happen. Meaning, anytime you see a Bet Knesset get destroyed, chas v'shalom, or vandalized, chas v'shalom, or something happen, some Arab came and did something, some Christian Nazi came and did something, it's not his fault. He's a Rasha, he's going to get punished, he's going to get Gehenom, and so on. But it's not his fault per se. Whose fault is it? The fault is the Jew. Why? Because there's no way according to the rules that Hashem instilled in this world, there's no way for a goy to ever have the courage to step into a holy place. He doesn't have a courage to step into a holy place. Impossible. And desecrate it. If the goy, the Nazi, the Mustafa, has the courage to come and want to stab a bunch of people in a shul, want to stab a bunch of people in a place of holiness, that means the place is not holy. That means there's something wrong in the place. Somebody else did something there. Even if it's the Bet HaMikdash. The Goyim did not come to destroy and desecrate the Bet HaMikdash until we desecrated it first, Rabotai. We desecrated the Bet HaMikdash first. Then the Goyim had the courage and the right, according to Hashem's rules, to go inside. Why is this the case? Because everything that's bad in the world, the Sefer Hasidim says, everything that's evil in the world has to come from a good place. Again, everything that's terrible, awful, horrible, started from a good place. Initially it was good. Something was good that went wrong. We see in our Parashat Shavua, Parashat Shmot, that the Goyim, the Egyptians, that became the strongest, most powerful, richest country in the world, and most likely in history, all of a sudden forgot who made them so rich. They forgot Yosef. As it says, Vayakam melech chadash al Mitzrayim asher lo yada et Yosef. A new king arose over Egypt who did not know Yosef. What do you mean? How do you not know Yosef? Yosef is the one that saved all of you from dying. Yosef is the one that not only saved you from dying, but he made you all this money. Not only made you all this money, he made all of the other countries have to pay you taxes forever. How do you forget such a person? It's like somebody looking at a dollar bill and ignoring the fact that there's George Washington is on it. You don't even need to know who George Washington is, but he's on the bill. You can't ignore the picture there. Or what is somebody else? I think $100 bills on there. The point is that there's somebody on the picture. You can't just say it doesn't exist. It's there. Yosef built your country. His pictures all over the walls. There's groups of people follow him. Go to his grave every day. Lavdi, like the Rabbi Nachman of Breslev and the Lubavitcher Rebbe, they have graves. The Egyptians, they used to go to the grave of Yosef Tzaddik and pray at his grave because they worship him as an idol. How do you all of a sudden not know who Yosef is? What kind of kfui tova, ungrateful personality does a person have? The reality is, the sages teach us that it's not that he didn't know who Yosef was. He didn't want to know. Meaning, he says, let's forget about this person and what he did. Why? Look at how much his people benefited. Not look at how much we benefited, the Egyptians. Look at how much his people benefited. They're so big, they're greater than us in number, and maybe they're going to join our enemies now, and they're going to go to war, and they'll beat us, and they're going to take all the things we gave them. You didn't give them anything, they gave you. They forgot about that. This is the midah ra'ah. This is an evil character trait called kfui tova. Ungratefulness. And the Gemara says there are certain types of people that Hashem hates. One of them is an ungrateful person. An ungrateful person is despised by Hashem because it's literally the opposite of Hashem. Hashem gives, never takes. An ungrateful person takes, never says thank you. In fact, he gives you something bad in return. So this evilness is the beginning of the Holocaust. This horrible character trait was the beginning of the Holocaust in Egypt. After this Paro started. Look at this. Who's this Yosef? I don't know who you are. Take these pictures off the walls. Shut off the celebrations, the memorials. Shut off everything. I want to forget about this guy. Next thing you know, he's starting to kill Jewish babies. He's killing kids. He's killing people. Turns everybody into slaves. Where did this evil come from? Sefer Hasidim said, all evil has to come from a good place. Later on in the parasha, we see that Moshe Rabbeinu sees a Jew and an Egyptian fighting. Really, it's the Egyptian beating the heck out of the Jew. And why is he beating him up? Because the Egyptian saw this woman named Shlomit. And he saw her and she said hi to him. Hi. She was a little bit flirtatious too. She said hi to everybody. If you're a kosher Jewish woman, you don't say hi to everybody. But she did. So the Egyptian thought that if she's saying hi to me, maybe she wants to be with me too. Why? Because guys are demented. That's the way guys think. Women don't understand this. Women think, no, I just said hi to him. I'm just being nice. He's not being nice. He thinks you said hi, you're interested. Yeah, but I'm married with kids. He doesn't seem to care. He doesn't really care. Yeah, but I don't like him. He doesn't care about that either. He thinks you do. That's the way the filthy mind of a person works without Torah. The Egyptian says, oh, she said hi to me. She must want to be with me. So what did he do? Oh, he found out she's married. Okay, so you can take care of that too. He told the husband, listen, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. You have a special shift. Start work at 3. Yeah, but I usually start work at 5:30. Today you're going to start at 3. He got the husband out of the house, and he came inside instead. And in those days, there's no lights. So he came into the bed, and the wife didn't know it was the Egyptian. And she committed the sin with him, not unknowingly. She didn't do it on purpose. But nonetheless, it was her fault also. As soon as he finished doing his deed, he left, and the husband came back because he sensed there's something wrong. And he caught him doing what he did with his wife. From that moment on, the Egyptian did not leave this guy alone because even though he got what he wanted, he was embarrassed now. Why? You caught me. You caught me. So what did he do? He started beating him up, started torturing him until Moshe Rabbeinu saw it. Moshe Rabbeinu sees these evil Egyptian beating up the guy he just raped his wife. Not enough he did what he did to his wife, he's beating him up also on top of it. Moshe Rabbeinu sees this, Ruach HaKodesh, he saw the whole thing. He says Hashem Meforash is the real name of Hashem, the Egyptian dies on the spot. It's a good thing. The Egyptian dies, saves the Jew, Baruch Hashem, no? What does it say after that? Next day, Moshe Rabbeinu sees 2 Jews fighting. And one of them, and he says, why are you being a Rashan, hitting your brother? You should know, according to halacha, anyone that just even raises their hand, not actually hits, raises their hand against another Jew, is classified as a rasha in the Torah. Not actually hitting, of course, rasha. But it just goes like this. I'm going to hit you. Rasha. Classified as rasha in the Torah. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, rasha, why are you going to hit your brother? What is the answer? What are you going to do? You're going to kill me like you killed the Egyptian? How does he know? Who's saying this to him? The guy he saved his life yesterday. The one he saved his life yesterday is saying this to him. Who are these two Jews? Datam ve'aviram. Datam ve'aviram הרשעים האלה. What do they do? Say what? You're going to kill us like you killed the Egyptian? What do they go do? They go tell on Moshe, rat on Moshe to Paro. And that's why it says after that, and Paro made a rule, go kill Moshe. Paro wanted to go kill Moshe. Meaning that the midah, the character trait of kfui tovah, ungratefulness, didn't start with Paro. It started with Am Yisrael. Started with Am Yisrael. Started with Am Yisrael, Rabotai. Everything has to start with Am Yisrael. We even saw in Parashat Noach that Hashem says, Ki yashchit kol basar et haaretz. Ki yashchit kol basar et haaretz says that all of the flesh, I'm going to destroy all of the flesh because it destroyed the world. How did all the flesh? Say all the humans destroyed the world. No, it says kol basar. Kol basar means all flesh, meaning that even the animals sinned. Why would the animals sin? Because the actions of man made the world so filthy with tum'ah of sins that it led for the animals to start sinning. The zebra all of a sudden wanted to marry the lion. The sheep wanted to start eating meat. The kangaroo wanted to marry the alligator. Nature started going and becoming opposite. They started sinning. Sinning meaning against their own nature. Why? Because the sins of man was supposed to be good. Once he started becoming bad, he influenced nature. So when a person understands that the wisdom of the Torah is endless, it's very simple to feel puny. It's very simple to become humble. Why? Because you realize there's endless wisdom here. I barely have anything. B'ezrat Hashem, hopefully I have it. The problem is sometimes people think that because they know maybe one or two things they learned in a shiur or two, they know another two or three things because they learned it in a book, all of a sudden they turn themselves into a small Baba Sali. And they start having an ego. And this is a very, very serious problem. Why? Because now a person started good, started learning, but then that learning got to their head, they became arrogant, and now the vessel has become tameh. The vessel originally was kosher, but then once a person adds arrogance to it, it's like adding tumah to it. This is what Yirat Shamayim is supposed to protect a person from. To such an extent that if a person truly understood what does it mean to learn Torah, people open books all the time and they learn Torah, but sometimes they do it with a lot of laughing and joking around. Like you see it a lot, you see it very often, unfortunately, people that learn together. And sometimes they want to learn in groups, in Batei Knesset. They learn with groups. And it's not like a real chavruta with one-on-one and you're going back and forth and you're trying to make something happen. Sometimes people just learn, like, they have coffee, one guy's making donuts, the other guy's making maybe some sufganiyot, the other guy's making some burekas, just in case sufganiyot didn't make you fat enough, the burekas is going to do it for you. The other guy's making coffee. It's like a whole kitchen. But everybody has a book opened. No one actually read anything, but everybody has a book open pretending to read. Then finally when they get to the table, all 12 of them, if they fit, after they ate so much, they fit around the table, they finally got there, they forget the book is open, so they start chit-chatting. And some of them have tefillin on. They have tefillin on. By the way, you should know, if you have tefillin on, you're not allowed to think about anything other than Hashem. Just so you know. You're not allowed to think about business. You're not allowed to think about, the mortgage I have didn't get paid. Not allowed to think about it. Forget about talking about it. People have, I've seen it, my own eyes. I'm not telling you fairy tales. I've seen it with my own eyes. People leave the tefillah, answer their phone with tefillin on. Yeah, I'll be there in 15 minutes. I'm almost finished with this minyan. It's taking a while. He has tefillin on. Yeah. What does she want? No, come on. It's too much. It starts having a whole conversation. Says that with tefillin on. Once, twice, 5 times. I've seen it plenty of times. Plenty of times. But his rabbi is there, and his rabbi doesn't say anything. I'm going to say anything? If his rabbi doesn't say anything, this guy lost cause. But there's plenty of that. You see people having shiurim, and it's more joking around than learning. But they feel like they learned. And the reality is that they'll do this for 5 years, 10 years, and still be ignorant. Still don't know anything. Why? 90% they're there for an hour and a half. They learned for maybe a minute and a half. But they had burekas and sufganiyot and coffee and make sure water because you don't want to be dehydrated. Took a couple of phone calls, gained a couple of pounds, said a few jokes. Some were funny, some not really. But Baruch Hashem, they ate. Everybody is prepared for Suda Shlishit. It's only 9 o'clock in the morning. This is what happens in many places. Why? There's no Yirat Shamayim. What Yirat Shamayim we're supposed to have when we learn? The Ruach Chaim says a Jew needs to know that a Kohen Gadol, everybody knows what a Kohen Gadol is. The Kohen Gadol, the high priest, would have a position that if you didn't have Yirat Shamayim, you died on the spot. Why? He had to go to the Kodesh Kodashim, the Holy of Holies, once a year on Yom Kippur, to pray for all of Am Yisrael. But while he's inside Kodesh Kodashim, if he thought for a second about his wife, not about something not allowed, but his wife, he's just thinking, I love my wife. Mitzvah, I love your wife. If you think about it inside there, you die on the spot. If he thought for a second, I don't know how I'm going to pay the mortgage, he's dead on the spot. Not only that, if he didn't think about Hashem the right way, he thought about Hashem, but not enough, like it was a little bit less Hashem, he dies on the spot. So the fear that a Kohen Gadol needs to have just to survive, enormous. The Ruach Chaim says, why? Because God's presence, the Shekhinah, was inside Kodesh Kodashim. But the Ruach Chaim says, even more than the Kodesh Kodashim, the Shekhinah is even more inside your Torah that you're learning. Needless to say, you should be even more scared than the Kohen Gadol when you're learning Torah. You should be more scared than the Kohen Gadol. When? You're learning Parashat Shavua. It's no big deal, just Parashat, just Rashi. What are you talking about, just Rashi? Just Rashi. The Shekhinah is inside the book. The Shekhinah is next to you watching. He's reading. Hashem is chavruta with you. You're not scared? You know he can kill you, right? You know he can give you problems, right? You know he's going to give you parnasah, not give you parnasah. Zivug, no zivug. He decides everything. He's right here. Ruach Chaim says, if the Kohen Gadol, look how scared he was, we should be more scared when we learn Torah. That's how scared we're supposed to be when we learn. Needless to say, all of these jokesters that laugh and eat the burekas all day, you have to feel bad for them. You have to feel bad for them. Why? It's a person running blind on a bridge that's broken. Now, the Zohar Kadosh says that learning Torah without having fear of God is like a bird without wings. It's simply not going to reach heaven. This Torah learning without Yirat Shamayim, it's not going to get to heaven. Why? It's a bird without wings. Bird can be a huge bird, small bird, doesn't make a difference. No wings, no flying. No Yirat Shamayim, it doesn't ascend to heaven. The Machzor Vitri says that this awe and reverence is actually pertaining to not only a person having awe of Hashem, so he doesn't make errors, but also having fear of his teacher. So he doesn't conduct himself like a fool in his presence. Why? If you have decided that you have a teacher, you have a rabbi, that means that you are under the belief and a decision that he is the continuation of Mount Sinai. If he's not the continuation of Mount Sinai, why are you listening to him? You should go listen to the news, maybe you'll get something more useful. You should go watch the stock market, make some money. You should go, I don't know, smash your head against the wall a few times. Maybe you'll get stop, the headache will stop. But if he's not from Mount Sinai, why are you learning from him? Find somebody that is from Mount Sinai. If you've decided he's continuing Torah Hashem from Mount Sinai, how are you not scared? This always amazes me when I see people meeting their rabbi. If I go, let's say, for example, if I ever see Rav Mizrahi or Rav Ephraim, or other times I've seen other rabbis, and like their students come to them, or I go to Keilot different times. I go to Keilot and do shiurim sometimes, and you see people come to the rabbi and give him like a high five. Hey, rabbi, what's up, man? What's up, man? He's your rabbi. He's from Mount Sinai. Nothing. Rabbi, what's up, man? High five. High five. What's up, Rabbi? Rabbi! Hey! What's up, man? How's the wife? The rabbinite? Is he your boy or he's your rabbi? If he's your rabbi, behemet, Torah says you have to be afraid of him like you're afraid of God. If he's not your rabbi, then you have to find a rabbi. Because the Gemara Masechet Yevamot says, person doesn't have a rabbi, God hates him. Person doesn't have a rabbi, God hates him. Why does God hate him? Because he can live his entire life making sins and never giving himself an opportunity to do tshuva. Why? Because no rabbi is telling him he's doing anything wrong, because there's no rabbi. A person must have a rabbi. So when I see sometimes how people treat the person they call their rabbi, it amazes me. It amazes me. I can tell you personally, anytime over the years, not everything that I heard from Rabbi Ephraim I liked. A lot of it I liked. A lot of it I didn't so much like. Why? Because I had to change. Some of the things he said I had to change. I didn't really like. I don't want to change. I liked the way I was. I didn't know it was bad. Before you realize it's bad, you don't want to change. Then he's telling you it's bad. Oh, I have to change, but I don't really like it. So as things go on, okay, so in the beginning, okay, you listen because you want to change, and then you don't really want to change it. But then it gets to a point where sometimes he drops a bomb on me, and I start arguing with it. And I'm, no, but come on, but isn't there something this? He goes, I'm sorry, this is not Torah. Yeah, but this, I'm sorry. What, do you want me to change the Torah for you? I said, yeah, but was this, you want me to change the Torah? I can't change the Torah. Now, as much as I don't want to do it, I'm too scared not to. So countless times, he would tell me to do something that mamash was like against my nature. I couldn't stand it, but I was too scared not to do it. I was too scared to go against it. Why? It's a rabbi. The rabbi said, it doesn't make any sense to me. So sometimes I would tell my wife, honey, it doesn't make any sense. What he's saying doesn't make any sense. She goes, I know. You have to do it, though. I said, yeah, but it doesn't make any sense. He's not going to know. He knows. She says he knows. Rabbi Ephraim says he knows. And we would do it time and time. And by the way, he was always right. Why? Because that Torah is always right. In the end, you'll always see how it's right. Every time. Every time it proved right. In the beginning, it was very difficult. And even today, it's obviously very different, but certain decisions that I would make, if I didn't have a rabbi, would be very, very different. Why? Because sometimes you want to say things, do things that make sense to you logically. But according to that Torah, not allowed, not suggested, not recommended, and so on and so forth. So every single time I get one of these, into one of these jams, and I ask him, and I'm expecting a certain answer, and he tells me the exact opposite, at this point it's like, come on, no, it can't, like, you want me to change the Torah for you, he tells me? Would you like for me to change the Torah for you? And that's the reality. A person has to ask themselves, do you want somebody to change the Torah for you? If you want somebody to change the Torah for you, then change it yourself. Why do you need somebody to change it for you? If you want the emet, you have to be submissive to the emet. And this is exactly what the Rambam teaches in Hilchot Talmud Torah. He says the following. He says, the words of Torah can be compared to water. As the prophet Isaiah states, behold, all who are thirsty, come to the water. Meaning all that want to learn Torah, come to the water, come to the Torah, we'll give you. This teaches you that just as water does not collect on an incline, meaning it doesn't collect when it doesn't go up. Water collects when it goes down. But rather it collects when it flows from it, when it flows and it collects in a low place. Similarly, the words of Torah will not be found in an arrogant person or someone that has a haughty heart, but rather in a humble and lowly person who sits in the dust at the feet of the sages and removes the desires and pleasures of the time from their hearts. They do only minimal amount of work each day to earn their livelihood. If they have nothing to eat, the rest of their days and nights they're involved in Torah study. So the Rambam says this is one of the halachot. A person that wants to inherit Torah, he has to make sure that he chooses the right vessel. What vessel is this? The vessel has to be a humble person. If the vessel is not a humble person, Gemara Masechet Moed Katan says you're not allowed to learn from them. Not only you shouldn't, you're not allowed. Not allowed. Why? Lo b'shamayim, it says. This Torah is not from Shamayim, it's from somewhere else. Because the Torah is like water, the Gemara says, and the Rambam is repeating. Torah is like water. It only goes to the lowest place. Someone that brings themselves down. Not that they feel like they're a loser. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about a self-conscious person, but someone that's humble. Now this is critical, the Chachamim say, for two reasons. Why? Because pride prevents a person from grasping the Torah. If a person that's proud, a person that's arrogant, has a very difficult time understanding the Torah. For two reasons. Number one, because they're less likely to make an effort that's necessary to open themselves up to the instructions of their teacher. Teacher said something, he's like, yeah, I'll find a different teacher. Yeah, he says a lot of things. I don't have to listen to everything he says. Like one of those things. I listen to some other stuff he says. Yeah, but he said this also. Yeah, he says. Yeah, but other people say different. Yeah, but you said he's your rabbi. Yeah, he's my rabbi today, he's my rabbi tomorrow, maybe on Wednesday he won't be my rabbi. I shop for rabbi. I have a lot of rabbis. Oh, you have a lot of rabbis. Gemara in Masechet Rosh Hashanah calls a person like that Rasha. Somebody that picks the leniencies of Bet Shammai and the leniencies of Bet Hillel, Rasha. He's only looking for rabbis that give him leniencies, Rasha. Shopping for rabbis, Rasha. If he's only looking for stringencies, no, I only want the rabbis that are the strictest about everything. So strict, you're not allowed to leave your house. The Gemara says he's a fool. He's not tzaddik. Someone that's only looking for stringencies, he's simply a fool. You have to look for someone who goes by the law. There are times to be strict, there are times to be lenient. Who knows it? Dat Torah. The Chacham knows. The rabbi knows. Yeah, but I don't have a rabbi. Oh, so then you're the Rasha then. You have to find a rabbi. Yeah, but I have a rabbi on Tuesday, but then on Wednesday I have a different rabbi. You have a problem. That's what you have. You have a salad. You have a mixed Israeli salad. You have to make a choice. Why don't people make a choice? Because their ego doesn't allow them to submit to another person. It's not that they don't agree with this rabbi, or they don't like the way this rabbi sounds, or what the rabbi says doesn't make sense. It's that their ego is so big, it fills the room, there's no room for the rabbi. So in reality, they treat the rabbi like it's entertainment. Oh yeah, this was really good, rabbi. Good job, this one. Let's make a clip out of this shiur. I'll give you the times. They send me a text. Oh, make a clip out of this one. Yeah, but what about what I said? Are you going to follow it? No, it's other people. It's for other people. It's for other people what you say. This is true. Why? These are people. They treat rabbis like they're celebrities, like they're, it's a movie. Because the ego does not let them submit to a person. Because they think that person is the same as them. The second reason Chachamim say is that pride often leads a person to have an obsession with material and material desires. And the pursuit of this material will take a person away from their devotion to the Torah that's required. When a person is proud, when a person is egotistical, it always means that they're also materialistic. And if they're materialistic, they're not going to leave any room for the Torah. So here we see that it's not so simple to just get this Torah, to even just get one of the things what the Torah says. A couple of jokesters tried to test Rav Ovadia when he was still young. Young, meaning in his 40s. And he said, yeah, he says this, he says that, he writes this, he writes that, but who knows if he even has Yirat Shamayim? Who knows? Like, how do you know if somebody has Yirat Shamayim? You don't say, listen, Yirat Shamayim, yeah, it's on your forehead. He says, let's see if he has Yirat Shamayim. Torah says that if you have kilayim, if you're wearing shatnez, and you find out, the second you find out you have shatnez, you have to take it off on the spot. Even if it's in the middle of the street. You find out you have shatnez in your pants, you have to take it off in the middle of the street. You can't go another step to go to a private place. No, on the spot you have to take it off. If you actually know, Halacha says, Shulchan Aruch says, if you know your friend has shatnez, let's say in his clothes, what you need to do, you have to take it off him on the spot, in the middle of the street, wherever he is. Don't wait, listen. Habibi, come for a second. Come for a second, let me show you something. Why? Because every step he takes, it's another sin from the Torah. So they thought they were being funny, and he was giving a shiur. It's people. And all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, Kvod Harav, your parents have kilayim. Your parents have a problem. They didn't think he's going to do anything about it. Maybe he's going to say, oh, okay, 1 second, I'll leave. He started taking off his pants. In a hurry. No, for the Rav, we're sorry, we're just kidding. He goes, have it or it doesn't have it. No, we were just kidding for the Rav. We didn't actually think you're going to take off your pants. That's Yirat Shamayim. That's Yirat Shamayim, Rabotai. He had no consideration whatsoever to 150 people, 200 people that are there watching giant rabbi giving a shiur. He's taking off his pants in the middle of a shiur. No consideration. Why? Maybe I'm sinning against a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Who has time to consider anybody else? This is Mussar for every Bat Yisrael, for every Ben Yisrael that takes this into consideration. Most women that have a hard time with modesty, have a hard time putting modest clothes on, modest behavior, modest everything. Why? It's not really because they grew up that way. It has nothing to do with it. Because eventually you realize it's wrong, but you still, unfortunately, want to wear immodest clothes. Part of the reason is simply because they're afraid of what people think. They're afraid of the neighbor, what the neighbor is going to say, what their friends are going to say, what their mom is going to say, what their brother is going to say, what somebody else is going to say. They're afraid of what people are going to say. The same thing goes with a Ben Israel. Some people are embarrassed of wearing a kippah, or a tzitzit, or being modest as a man. Why? They're afraid people are going to say, what, you became religious on us? What, did you become a rabbi? What rabbi? Just started to keep wearing a kippah. Why? A rabbi just has to have a kippah? Today, maybe. But in reality, Rabotai, some guys are scared of looking like a religious Jew. They're embarrassed of it. Why? Because they're embarrassed of what people say. What does the Rabbi teach us? The Rabbi teaches us in a story, there's no time to even consider what other people say if you're sinning against Hashem. If you're sinning against Hashem, there's simply no time to even consider what people think. Not what they know or don't know, what they see or don't see. If you're in the middle of a sin because you're wearing a wig from India, or because you're wearing a miniskirt, or you're doing something that's against Hashem, it doesn't make a difference what everybody thinks and everybody knows and everybody this and everybody that. Why? Because at that moment, you're going against Hashem. Do you realize what that means? Apparently not. Because that requires Yirat Shamayim. This is why Shlomo HaMelech and David HaMelech both said it, Reshit Chochmah Yirat Hashem. The beginning of wisdom is fear of Hashem. The beginning of us becoming a vessel of wisdom has to begin with Yirat Shamayim. Without it, we simply cannot inherit Torah. We can't acquire it. We can't understand it. We can't even follow it. Without Yirat Shamayim, we're going to follow Torah like it's a min'ag. And today, that's actually what's happening. Most people follow the Torah like it's a custom. Like it's a custom. Yeah, they call themselves masorti, traditional. Yeah, we go to shul a couple times a year. Like I used to, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, as long as you're awake. You eat matzah on Pesach. And maybe you go to your friend's sukkah because who wants to spend the money and the time to build your own sukkah? And then maybe sometimes you go for Lag BaOmer, and then sometimes you go for Tu B'Shvat if you even know what it is yet. And you keep certain things whenever you feel like it, but if somebody tells you something that doesn't make sense to you, no, this is just rabbinical. And you start creating all types of excuses of why you're not going to follow it. Yeah, but the rabbi said that everybody has to be modest, men and women. Yeah, the rabbis. The rabbis. You always blame the rabbis. The reality is, Rabotai, is when a person has Yirat Shamayim, the only thing he cares about is whether something is true or false. Whether it's true or false. Somebody who's a Talmid in a kollel, or was a Talmid in a kollel, but he comes from a family of learners, and he means well. It's one of these people who means well, but he doesn't realize that, unfortunately, he got too much of sinat chinam around him that sometimes it influences you without you even knowing it. So he went to kollel, went to yeshiva, he comes from a family of Talmidei Chachamim, and he had a question. He had a specific question on a tough issue, and it has to do with Yirat Shamayim, of course. And I explained to him my answer, and I gave the sources and so on. He says, yeah, but I know that I understand what you're saying, and I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying it's very different because you're a Baal Tshuva, and I'm from birth. So maybe it's not really relevant to people that are frum. And like he starts arguing this whole thing based on some demented foundational reason that I'm a Baal Tshuva. He meant well. He didn't mean to insult me. But he doesn't realize that reminding a Baal Tshuva that he's a Baal Tshuva is a sin. Your whole foundation of whatever your argument is a sin from the Torah. Oh, I didn't realize it. Oh, okay, now you realized. Just same thing you're not allowed to remind a convert he's a convert. Sin, not allowed to. Oh, I didn't realize. Oh, but today everybody does it. Everybody does it. They make sure you know that you're a Baal Tshuva. There's a whole article written recently about how Baalei Tshuva in Israel The second generation of Baalei Tshuva are struggling because they're treated, or some of them feel like they're being treated like second-class citizens because they can't fit in to the frum from birth community, the Haredim, and they're not really the Baalei Tshuva like their parents were. So a lot of them go off the derech, or a lot of them are confused, and so on and so forth. All this balagan. The reality is it's all complete nonsense. The whole article is complete nonsense. Why? If you learn Torah like you're supposed to, your careness about everyone around you ceases to exist. All you care about is, am I sinning against Hashem? The only reason you care about the guy next to you is because it's a sin against Hashem to offend the person next to you, or to make the person next to you, think you're sinning. But as far as what he thinks of you, or your dress, or your pants, or your hat, and whether his opinion of it is, it's irrelevant. All you care about is, am I sinning against Hashem? Anyone that learns Torah that way doesn't have any problems in any community. Not Haredi, not Litai, not Chabad, not anything. Why? They're all people. I care about Hashem. I'm not going to offend the people. I'm going to try to help the people. But if they decide that they don't like me, as long as Hashem likes me, I'm fine. As long as Hashem likes me, I'm fine. And that's what a person needs to understand. As long as Hashem likes you, you're fine. But if we care too much about what people think, that is a very clear indication we don't have any Yirat Shamayim. Not some Yirat Shamayim, we don't have any. As long as you care about what people think, even 1% of you cares about what people think of you, that means you care about what they think of you more than you care about what Hashem thinks of you. That means Yirat Shamayim and you, different rooms, different worlds. There's zero. It's not even some. No, I have some Yirat Shamayim. No, it's zero Yirat Shamayim. Why? Anyone that understands what Hashem is would never spend a moment being scared of anybody else. Somebody else's opinion, somebody else's this, somebody else's that. Who has time for that? So, the Rambam tells us in Hilchot Talmud Torah that the Torah is transmitted when a student feels subservient to his teacher. The Gemara in Masechet Bava Kama, page 28, gives a very interesting story. Rav Chisda asked Rami Bar Chama a very difficult question. And Rabbi Bar Chama said, I'll answer you after you start serving me. You start serving me, I'll answer you. Immediately, Rav Chisda got a towel, put it on his arm like a waiter. Yes, sir. Yes, Kvod Rav, I'm ready. Gemara has very strange behavior. What is he become arrogant? Gdol Ador, biggest rabbi in the world, that's able to revive the dead. Because if he's named in the Gemara, he's able to revive the dead in such a high level. He became arrogant? It's not possible to be at such a high level and be arrogant at the same time. So why is he asking Rav Chisda to serve him? The Chachamim explain in the Gemara is that he wanted to know, Rami Bar Chama wanted to know, do you consider me your rabbi? If you consider me your rabbi, then you're going to serve me. You're going to do whatever I say. And if you do what I say, you'll accept my answer. Whatever answer it is, whether it agrees with you or disagrees with you. Why? Because I'm your rabbi. But if I'm not your rabbi and you're not willing to serve me, then why are you asking me any questions? Because it doesn't make a difference what I say. Because you're not going to listen anyway. Because you're only listening to yourself. You're only going to listen to me if it agrees with you, which means that you already knew the answer. So if you're asking me a question, first you have to make me your rabbi. And to make me a rabbi, you have to serve me. This is called shimush. Shimush means serving, ministering to the sages. In our generation, only in yeshivot this exists. Very, very little bit amount exists outside of it. But that's also because we have a very, very difficult time understanding what Torah is. There was a certain businessman that lived in Vilna who went to Posen in order to do some business, but he wanted to meet Rabbi Akiva Eiger, alav shalom. But he knew that Rabbi Akiva Eiger is one of the giants of the generation. He doesn't meet just anybody. So he made sure that his rabbi from Vilna writes him a letter of introduction. Please write me a letter of introduction so I could show it to Rabbi Akiva Eiger that I'm not just, just trying to waste his time. So when he gets to the Bet Knesset, to the Bet Midrash of Rabbi Akiva Eiger at that time was taking off his tefillin. It was in the morning. He was taking off his tefillin, and he took off the tefillin on his head. And he gave him the letter. Immediately, Rabbi Akiva Eiger looks at the letter. He says, it says here in this letter that you met the Gaon Mivilna. Is this true? He says, yes. He says, can you repeat any of the Torah that the Gaon Mivilna said? He says, yes. Immediately, Rabbi Akiva Eiger, biggest rabbi in the world, put his tefillin on and started listening to him like he's his teacher. And murmuring to himself, Torah of the Gaon Mivilna is like Mount Sinai. Torah of Gaon Mivilna is like Mount Sinai. He's waiting for him to give him Torah. He's the rabbi. He's the businessman. But no. You heard Torah from the Gaon Mivilna. It's like you went to Mount Sinai. He's not asking him, what are you doing? How much is your net worth? How much are you going to donate? Where do you donate? Where do you vacation? He's not asking him those questions. Wait, you saw the Gaon Mivilna? You can repeat some of the things he said? It's like you went to Mount Sinai. This is a person that understands what Torah is. Halvai Elenu to know what Torah is. When a person is too arrogant to listen to a teacher, it's impossible for him to have Yirat Shamayim. When a person is too materialistic, it's impossible for him to have Yirat Shamayim. When a person does not work on himself to become an acceptable vessel, it's impossible for him to have Yirat Shamayim. When a person works on Yirat Shamayim, he has to make certain exceptions in his life that he ordinarily wouldn't do. Ordinarily he wouldn't do it. So the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat talks about what is it exactly Yirat Shamayim. What is it exactly? In page 31a, it continues into 31b. It's a whole section about Yirat Shamayim. Resh Lakish says, the ultimate Baal Tshuva says, what does he say? He says, there's a pasuk in the Torah in the book of Isaiah, chapter 33, verse 6, where it says, the stability of your time and the strength of your salvation is wisdom and knowledge. The fear of God is in his storehouse. He says, what does this mean? What does this mean? It says the prophet Isaiah is pretty much telling the Jewish people that their new tranquility, their good time, their success, if they want it to continue, if you want your parnasah to continue growing, you want your wife to continue bringing children, you want your wisdom to continue, you want all the good stuff to continue, all you need to do is acquire wisdom, knowledge, and fear of God. That's what the prophet is saying. So the Resh Lakish in the Gemara dissects the quote, dissects the verse, to say that what does this mean to us? It says each one of these words is representing a different part of our oral Torah. But ultimately it finishes with a sentence that puts everything in perspective. Where it says that B'sha'ah she'machnisim adam ladin, when a person is escorted to heaven for his final judgment after he dies, the Bet Din of Shamayim start asking him questions. They say, first, did you conduct your business transactions faithfully? Did you have emunah when you did business? Meaning emunah that you were considering where you were, where you're going, were you honest in business? Did you cheat? Did you sell fake goods, refurbished as new, lend money with interest to Jews, worked overtime instead of learning Torah? Did you have emunah in your business? Second question is, they ask a person in Shamayim, did you make a fixed time to learn Torah? Without making a fixed time to learn Torah, you're never going to learn Torah. If your learning Torah is just going to come whenever you get a chance, Malach HaMavet is going to make sure you never get a chance. If you don't have a specific time every day you are dedicating to Torah, unless it's your whole day. But if you're a Baal Habayit, you're working in the business world, you go to school, you do other things, if you don't make a specific time to learn Torah every day, in the morning and at night, where you know that no matter rain or shine, sick or healthy, you're going to learn those times. If you don't make those times, you failed question number 2 in Shamayim, because you're never going to succeed in learning Torah. Third question is, did you engage in procreation? Did you bring children to the world? Did you try to bring children to the world? Some people don't have the fortune. I met somebody recently, he's already married for 5 or 6 years, misken, can't bring kids to the world. He's only 25, 26 years old. People think that it's easy, that it's a given. You're 25, you're young, you're healthy, you're this, you're that. Children are going to come. So you say, no, we're not ready for kids yet. We want to have fun. We just got married. Who said you're going to have kids? Who guaranteed you're going to have kids? People think it's so easy. That it's they just assume success. Many people don't have it. But the question number 3 is, did you try to do it? Did you engage in it? Fourth question is, did you wait in hope for the Mashiach? Meaning, did you actually believe that the Mashiach is going to come or not really? If you believe that the Mashiach is going to come, then that means you're going to do tshuva every single day. Why? Because Mashiach comes, no more tshuva. If you don't believe in Mashiach, then all you do all day is waste your time on this world. Build a bigger house in this world, another car in this world, another this and everything. All of your time and effort is investing in this world as if you're going to stay here forever. A person that believes in Mashiach does not invest in this world too much. Why? He knows it's only temporary. Why waste your time? That is the next question. Following question is, did you delve into wisdom? Pilpalta bechokhmah. Higher level learning. Sheilot v'tshuvot. 7 levels of wisdom, and so on. Evanta davar mitoch davar. Did you learn Torah? Did you learn it deeply? Did you infer one thing to another? Not just learn the pshat. Go even deeper. Meaning that these are the questions that a person gets when he gets to Shamayim. A woman, by the way, gets the same questions. Only they ask her, did your husband do this? Oh, he didn't do it? It's your fault. Why didn't you send him? Why did you send him to go learn Torah? Well, but it's not my fault. He didn't want to go learn. So why did you send him? You're a woman. You can get your husband to do anything he wants. If you want a new fridge, you're going to cry till next year. He'll buy you 5 fridges. Why? He doesn't want to hear you crying anymore. So how come you didn't cry the same thing about him learning Torah? When you wanted that new dress for the bar mitzvah, that was $5,000, that's unaffordable, you started crying. What happened? He bought you the dress. Even though you can't afford it, but he borrowed the money from his mom. So you can stop crying. How come you didn't cry for the Torah? You cried for the dress that you're only going to wear once in your life. But how come you didn't cry for the Torah that you're going to live eternally for? So the reality is, no woman has an excuse. They ask her the same questions. Did you get your husband to learn Torah every day at a specific time? But even with all of this, there's limited consequences. All of those questions that are make or break, even if a person, the Gemara says, answers positive, all of these questions, they say to him, V'afilu achi, Yirat Hashem, I otzaro en, Ilo lo. He says, but even so, even if he has all of this, but he doesn't have Yirat Hashem, he doesn't have fear of Hashem, his judgment is not favorable. What is it like? It's like somebody told a employee, go put this stuff, go put our fruits, vegetables, wheat, barley, all the stuff we have, go put it in the attic. The guy, the employee, follows and puts it there, like you said. When he comes down, it says, did you put chumtin on it? Did you put preservative on it so it doesn't go bad? Oh, no, I forgot, boss, I forgot. What does the boss say? It was better off you didn't do anything. It was better off you didn't bring it anywhere. Why? Without the preservative, it's all going to go bad. So it's better off you left it here, at least it would have survived. Without a preservative, it's all going to go bad. It's a complete waste. The Gemara says, without Yirat Shamayim, the entire Torah that a person learns is a complete waste. Why? It won't be preserved at the time of tests. It won't be preserved at the time of tests where Hashem gives you an emunah test. Something hurts here, something hurts there, something hurts in the pocket, some things are questionable, some things happen. All of a sudden, what happened? You went to yeshiva for 20 years. How come you're Mechalel Shabbat? Stuff. As soon as the test came, Torah did not last. Why? It's a Torah without Yirat Shamayim. Torah without Yirat Shamayim is the only explanation of why you see certain people that look very, very religious but do things that are against the religion. I remember when as a secular person, I used to see people that were considered religious. They had the whole hat and beard and streimel and everything, and I would see them in casinos. I would see them in all types of places, bars and so on, and I would always ask myself, like, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? I'm not saying that it's ideal for every person to be here, but you for sure are not supposed to be here, Mr. Religious. Why? You're supposed to be a representative of God. God doesn't go to bars. And that's the thing. How does somebody that looks so religious do things that are so against the religion, against the Torah? It's because it's all an act. It's all an act. It's Torah without Yirat Shamayim. And that's why the Gemara continues, says, Kol Adam sheyesh bo Torah ve'en bo Yirat Shamayim, any person that has learned Torah but does not acquire himself fear of heaven is comparable to a treasurer that was given the keys to the inner chambers but not the outer chambers. Meaning that, let's say, for example, they say, listen, Mr. Smith, you're going to be responsible of the treasure of the king. Here's the keys. And he tries to get in. He can't get in. Why? The key he has is for the safe all the way inside, but not the safe outside. The key is useless. The key is a piece of metal. Why? You can't use it. The Torah that you have, that's the inside treasure, is useless. Why? Yirat Shamayim is the entrance key. Yirat Shamayim is what lets you go see the inner entrance. Without it, without Yirat Shamayim, all the Torah that a person learns, waste of time. And you also see how their Torah, a person who doesn't have Yirat Shamayim, you also see that their Torah is different. Now, I don't pretend to have as much Yirat Shamayim as I need to have, but I can tell you that there is a little bit of a difference from some other people. There's a certain rabbi, I call him Shabtai Tzvi. His name is Shabtai. His name is Bemet Shabtai. I call him Shabtai Tzvi because he's really like Shabtai Tzvi. He's a faker, and he liked to take my CDs and throw them in the garbage instead of helping people do tshuva. So anyway, this Shabtai Tzvi, I already know who he is for about 5 years. I know who he is for about 4 or 5 years, something like that, since I moved to Florida. Since my kaparot ovanot in Florida began, I know him. Now, this guy, he's a rabbi. He went to school. He went to yeshivot. His whole life is in yeshiva. 5 years I know the guy. 5 years. 5 years he's given the same exact lecture. One lecture. Anytime that somebody invites him anywhere, which is not really that often, Same exact lecture repeated. Same thing. Nothing changes. It's like, just send them the tape, and they'll play it. Nothing changes. Same exact subject, over and over and over and over again. And I say to myself, in 5 years, you know how many lectures we have on the internet in 5 years? You know how many subjects you could talk about in 5 years? Needless to say, in 20 years he's been doing this, or however long he's doing this. 5 years, it's the same lecture? What are you studying? Comic books? But this is it, Rabotai. When a person treats Torah for intellectual purposes only, and his Torah has no Yirat Shamayim, the Torah itself doesn't develop much beyond the basics of what he's learning. The basics of what he's learning. So the lecture doesn't change. The subjects don't change. The chidushim don't exist. It's the same thing over and over again, playing over and over again, because maybe at some point they had Yirat Shamayim, so Hashem gave them some Torah, but after that, no Yirat Shamayim, so it stayed the same over and over again. Amar Rav Yehuda, lo bara HaKadosh Baruch Hu et olamo, ela kedei shiru milfanav. שנאמר, והאלוהים עשה שיראו מלפניו. Rav Yehuda says, the Holy One, blessed is He, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, only created His world so that human beings would populate it and stand in fear of Him. As it says in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 14, and God has acted so man shall stand in awe of Him. For all of those people that think that Yirat Shamayim is only a suggestion, apparently our Gemara and Shlomo HaMelech and Hashem Himself are telling us it's the only reason you exist. Not only is it not a suggestion, it's the purpose of a person. People always ask me, what's my purpose? What should I do in life? What should I be when I grow up? You're 45. Yeah, what should I do one day? Fear God. No, but what else? Alvai you get to that, then we'll talk about something else. Hopefully you get there. Rabbi Nachman Breslev Alav Shalom says in his generation, almost 200 years ago, he says loving Hashem is not relevant to most people, and even the highest level of Yirat Shamayim, he says, is not relevant to most tzaddikim in his generation. He says, Alvai, he says, I wish, Rabbi Nachman Breslev, Lekutei Maharan, he says, I wish the tzaddikim, not just the Reshaim, the tzaddikim, all get to the basic, lowest level of Yirat Shamayim. If all of them got there, we'll be in good shape. People talk about, no, you should talk about loving Hashem. Oh, Rabbi Nachman Breslev didn't actually agree with those people. So, the Gemara doesn't either. Rav Simon and Rabbi Elazar Avu Yetveh, they were once sitting together, and Rav Yaakov Bar Acha walked by them. So one said to the other, let's get up, he has Yirat Shamayim. Rav Yaakov has Yirat Shamayim. The other one said, yeah, but he knows Torah. He says, the first one says to him, I say to you, he has Yirat Shamayim, and you're trying to tell me he knows Torah? What's more important than Yirat Shamayim? What's more important than Yirat Shamayim? I told you it's already more than enough. He has Yirat Shamayim. You tell me he has Torah. What's more important? Yirat Shamayim is it? If he has Torah, he has no Yirat Shamayim, it's worthless. Gemara, Shabbat 31b. Almost done in this section. Last one. That will put everything in perspective, Be'ezrat Hashem. Amar Rabbi Elazar. אין לו לקדוש ברוך הוא בעולמו, אלא יראת שמיים בלבד. שנאמר, ואתה ישראל, מה השם אלוקיך שואל ממך, כי אם ליראה. Rabbi Rabbi Elazar says, God has nothing else in his world except for fear of heaven alone. As it says, Moshe Rabbeinu said to Am Yisrael in the book of Deuteronomy, "Now, O Israel, what does Hashem your God ask of you? Only to fear him." Meaning that not only is it the ultimate reason why he created the world, the only reason why he allows the world to continue is because there's still a few people in the world that fear him. This, Rabotai, is one of the most critical things that a person needs to learn, needs to focus on, needs to investigate. Do I have it? Do I not have it? Wisdom by itself is not enough. The Rogachover Rebbe had enormous wisdom, to such an extent that he told his students, I could learn the entire language of Russian in 30 minutes. I just don't have 30 minutes. Why? 30 minutes is too much time to waste not learning Torah. The Rogachover Rebbe, Einstein met him. He says, with his brain you can make two Einsteins. He said, you thought I was smart to this, come learn Torah with me, I'll show you what smart is. He told his student, I can learn in Russian, the entire language of Russian, 30 minutes I can learn it. I just don't have 30 minutes. That's Yirat Shamayim, Rabotai. When you're managing your time, that you're too scared to waste it. Talking to your girlfriend, talking to your boyfriend, watching TV, playing on the internet. Maybe somebody's putting a picture of a cake that you might want to buy. Or these stupid groups that people have on WhatsApp discussing what they're cooking for Shabbat. Or where they're going this weekend and where you're vacationing. You have nothing to do. Like people have mamash nothing to do and they just discuss nothing. Like there's the brain that has like a mouse in it and just goes to sleep the whole time. You run out of words. You're discussing who's making a cake and who's not making a cake. Rabotai, it's too scary to waste time. It's too scary to waste time. We have so many opportunities to serve Hashem that it's mamash a shame. It's a shame to waste that time talking about cake or putting pictures of cakes on the internet. For heaven's sake, if I see another picture of somebody's dinner after they eat on the internet, I don't know what I'm going to do. It's mamash, like I have no idea. When people have run out of things to do in the world, they show you their dinner. Why would anybody care what you ate or what you're about to eat? I don't understand this. Or the best thing is, people go on these things and they have, I don't know, I guess Facebook knows that people are retarded in this generation. So it makes retarded programs to make you feel good about yourself. So it has these special posters that give you like 500 compliments. Yeah, the angels love you, and you're beautiful, and you're wonderful, and they make you look like 25 years younger, and they take your profile picture completely distorted, and then you're putting it on the internet. Now everybody needs to look at you and read this, all these compliments that they know is a lie, and you 20 years before you were even today. You have nothing to do. You're going, like you're spending, I don't know how much time it takes. It must take some type of time. But you see this on people's profiles all the time. They have these pictures of themselves with all these types of compliments on themselves. I don't know, like what happened? There's nothing like working here. Like, retarded mode, stop, danger. You officially retarded. Stop wasting your time. Be'emet, Rabotai, it's too scary. It's too scary to waste time. Why? Because we don't know how much time we have. I can tell you that recently one of the scariest things that I experienced was watching my dad on a screen almost die. When those evil monsters robbed him and almost ran him over with the car or hit him with the car. Seeing that, mamash, it helped me with Yirat Shamayim. Why? Because one day a person's here, the next day he may not be here. Baruch Hashem, he's here. And Bezrat Hashem will be here for many more years. But you see how quick life is gone. 1 second. That's all the difference. It's 1 second. 1 second, a little chemical, a little hormone in the brain doesn't work, person is in a different world. So a person can't just assume they're going to be here until 120 and they're only 20. So they have at least another 100 years. Or they're only 50, so they have another 70. A person can't even assume they'll be here tomorrow. And if you start thinking that way, you start realizing, I simply don't have time to waste. Cooking, I'll cook. Cleaning, I'll clean. Making money, I'll make. Whatever I got to do, I'm going to do. But wasting time, there's just no time for that. There's just no time to waste time. Yirat Shamayim is something that is really the only way that a person can get to that level of discipline when it comes to Torah. It's not a matter of being disciplined like some of these sports players or really highly successful CEOs that manage their time by the 5 minutes. Like some people say that some of these CEOs literally manage every 5 minutes of their time. That's obsessive compulsive. That's not successful. That's a person that's very sick. Because eventually he's going to leave the world with nothing. Even the money goes to other people. The creations he thinks he created are obsolete. Whether it's the iPhone or a car or whatever it is, eventually people forget about him. And people stop visiting the grave. And it's a waste of life. But a life of Torah, if you're leaving wisdom behind, you're leaving children behind that have wisdom, you're leaving major things behind that will continue your teachings, your foundation for many years to come, that's leaving something. But that requires Yirat Shamayim. It's not just discipline when it comes to, oh yeah, I want to wake up early so I can get there early. No, it's much more than that. It's literally being too scared to waste time. Too scared to waste time because time is valuable. And a person that knows that time is valuable is simply not going to waste it. Now, after we get to a point where we realize that it's Yirat Shamayim is one of the things we must achieve, the Mishnah says we then have to work on modesty. Modesty referring to not just modesty in clothing and in speech, but modesty in order to attain humility. Anava. It says that Moshe Rabbeinu was the most humble person that ever lived. What's the proof of it, aside from the fact that the Torah says it? The only way that Moshe Rabbeinu could have become the vessel to receive the Torah is if he became the humblest man that ever lived. Because the Torah cannot go to anyone that's not humble. And the Torah cannot come to somebody that's not the humblest. If somebody else was humbler, Hashem would have given it to him. If someone else was more modest, Hashem would have given it to him. It wasn't about wisdom. It was about becoming such a pure vessel because of the humility, because you realize where the Torah is, where Hashem is, and where we are, that Hashem says, you're the perfect vessel. That's also the reason why Hashem decided that Mount Sinai is the mountain that is going to be the mountain that he's going to use to bring the Torah to the world, and not other mountains that were much bigger, much prettier. Each creation has a malach. Each creation has an angel. In fact, each part of the grass has an angel talking to it, the Gemara says, saying, grow, 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 grow. So when somebody just decides to ruin a tree, sometimes kids, they like to play with flowers, but they're not very gentle. So they take the flower and they just start messing with it, breaking it to 50 pieces. Now, if you're a kid and you're 3-4 years old, you have an explanation why you're just experimenting. But sometimes adults do this because they don't have respect for other people's property. So they go to other people's gardens or trees and they just decide to take off branches. Why? Because they have nothing else to do and they just want to play with this branch for 15 minutes before they throw it to the side. They should know there was an angel. Gemara says there's an angel that was talking to the tree, talking to the flower, telling it, grow, 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 grow. Now you decided to disturb that growth by ripping the tree apart. Now you have a problem with that angel. Angel's chasing you. He's like, hey, what'd you do? You have a problem with this angel. Why'd you ruin it? It's not yours. The other mountains were arguing, who's bigger, who's more beautiful. Mount Sinai did not argue. Hashem says, that's the one that gets the Torah. Why? It's the humblest mountain. It's not the biggest. It's also not the smallest, but it's the humblest. The Machzor Vitri says that humility allows a person to ask questions when he doesn't understand. If a person is arrogant, he's never going to want to admit he doesn't know. There are many times that I meet people and the conversation goes wrong very quickly. Not because we get into an argument, but because I realize it's a complete waste of time to talk to this person. Why? Everything that I say, they say, I know. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Yeah, of course, I know. So why are you asking me if you know everything? If you guys, maybe some of you were here for this shiur, about a year ago, we had a shiur here. There was somebody that came here. I didn't know him, but apparently he was a rabbi. He was in the shiur. He tried to throw me off guard a couple of times. It was very fun. Asked me specifically what the source is in the middle of what I was saying the halacha was, which Baruch Hashem we provided. But after the shiur, I understood what's going on. He comes to me. I don't know, there was other people there. He said, the whole thing what you just said, I just said it right before the shiur. Everything you just said, I said the same exact thing. Down the street, the lighthouse. I said, wow, Yishtabach Shemo, Chazak u'Baruch, Chazak u'Baruch. Now I was very interested. I'm sorry, sometimes I'm very interested in people, so I have to look it up. I actually watched the shiur. It was like 40 minutes. Not a single word that what we said was an issue. Not one word. We didn't even use the same vocabulary. Why did he say it? Arrogance. Arrogance. He was too concerned to ever say, I learned something. Chas v'shalom, I'm going to learn from somebody else. Because I give shiurim. Chas v'shalom, I learned from somebody else because I give shiurim. That's arrogance. That's the opposite of what we're supposed to do. If you want to learn, you have to learn from everybody. And you have to admit when you don't know. You have to ask questions. If you're arrogant, you're going to be too arrogant to ask questions. You're going to be too arrogant to have a rabbi. You're going to be too arrogant to even learn Torah. And a person that overestimates his own intellectual abilities is liable to denigrate the dignity and sanctity of the Torah and its teachers, which ends up blocking his own path to its wisdom. He thinks he's doing good by protecting his kavod, not telling anybody he doesn't know, pretending he knows everything by heart. So he doesn't ask any questions, and he says he said the same thing as you, and he teaches the same thing, and he has the same thing, and even more, and so on and so forth. In reality, he thinks he's doing good to himself, but what he's doing is blocking his own wisdom. It's like eating poison and expecting the other person to die. Such is the disaster of having arrogance and not achieving anava. Now, who is the ultimate, most humble in history? Hashem. Even though Moshe Rabbeinu is the humblest of all men, Hashem is even humbler. Now, there are many examples in the Torah of Hashem's humility, but there's one specifically that I think is extraordinary. In Sefer Shmuel, Am Yisrael decides to tell the prophet Shmuel, Samuel in English, that they want a king. They want a king. And Shmuel, in chapter 8, verse 6, says, Vayira hadavar be'enei Shmuel, that this was wrong in Shmuel's eyes. when they said, give us a king to judge us. Shmuel says to Am Yisrael, what are you, stupid? What's the matter with you guys? You want a king of flesh and blood? You have a Kadosh Baruch Hu. What do you need a king for? You want to be like the Goyim? Because they have kings. What's the matter with you guys? Look at what Hashem says to him. Vayomer Adonai Shmuel, Shma bekol ha'am lekol asher yamru elecha, ki lo otcha ma'asu, ki oti ma'asu, mimloch alehem. Hashem says to Shmuel, listen to the voice of the people and all that they say to you. For it is not you whom they've rejected. It's me who they rejected from reigning over them. Don't be so upset, Shmuel. They're not going against you. They're just abusing me. They don't want me. You they want. You they like, Shmuel. Don't worry. You they like, Shmuel. Me they don't like. If I was Hashem, I'd kill everybody. Thank God I'm not Hashem. Hashem Yitbarach, instead of being insulted, what does he say? Shmuel, why are you so upset, my son? No, they're not going against you, Shmuel. It's me. Like as if it doesn't matter. It's a given to go against Hashem. That's the humility of Hashem. That's the humility of Hashem. That's the anava of Hashem. Hashem says, no, Shmuel, why are you so worked up? They're not going against you. It's me. They don't want me to be their king. A person that understands, you repeat this pasuk over and over again in your mind. You realize it. Mamash, sometimes there are certain prayers, like for example, Birkot HaLevana. You do Birkot HaLevana every month. And there's certain things I never understood. Why do you repeat certain things 3 times, 7 times? I never understood. Why do you do this whole, what is this, code? Yes. Sometimes we need to say the same thing 3 times, or 7 times, or 10 times, or 1,000 times, or 5 million times before our neshama accepts it. Before it works. Sometimes you need the same message. You need to hear Yirat Shamayim 50 million times before you say, oh, you know what? Maybe he's talking to me. Maybe I should do something about this. Sometimes we need to hear it. If you read this pasuk 10 times, 20 times, 1,000 times, however much it takes, I'm telling you, you'll never be arrogant once in your life. Why? If Hashem is saying that, he's showing, not saying, he's showing he's the humblest of all. What reason do we have to be arrogant? If he's humble, who has an excuse to be arrogant? Which means that anyone who still does not have humility simply does not know the value of it. Simply does not know the importance of it. Simply does not know that they're the creation and not the creator. Joy is the next aspect that a person needs to have. As we see from Yaakov Avinu, when he was happy and joyful in his Avodat Hashem, he was called Israel. When he wasn't, he was called Yaakov. A person that's in a joyful mood can learn more in 1 hour than a depressed person can learn in many, the Ruach Chaim says. Why? Because a person that has joy is overcoming his Yetzirah. A person that's depressed, a person that's moody, a person that's not so happy is not going to have the divine spirit near him to the same extent, if at all. And the Gemara Masechet Pesachim says in 117a that only a person that's worthy to attain nearness to Hashem Yitbarach, to the Shekhinah, is one that has joy when he does mitzvot. But a person that has sadness or wastes his time with aimless talk or just makes fun of everything and just jokes around all day, this is not a person that's worthwhile for the Shekhinah to visit. The The Rav Zalman Auerbach, Alav Shalom, he had a disease that in Hebrew is called Machalat Aitabdut, the disease of suicide. Why disease of suicide? Because anyone that has it typically commits suicide, which is a permanent migraine, headache, and physical pain permanently. No break, ever. No painkillers, no nothing. To the extent that people that have it, there's no cure for it. People that have it, they simply kill themselves. I actually met somebody recently that has had headaches for the last couple of years. Baruch Hashem, she's still okay, but definitely struggling. But that's not Machalat Itabdut. Machalat Itabdut is overall pain all the time, 24 hours a day. Baruch Hashem, I'm a little bit familiar with pain. It's very easy to commit suicide when you have that much pain. But yet, when you have Torah, like Rav Auerbach did, there's not a single picture that you can find with him not having a smile on. Every single picture you see of him, he's got a smile ear to ear. How do you even live, forget smile, that much when you have so much pain? Because when you have Simchat Torah inside you, it's a natural high. When you have real simcha from your Torah, it's a natural high. You're always happy. You're always joyful. Yeah, but there's struggles, there's pain, there's this. So? That doesn't change my status as happiness. Yes, there's struggles, there's pains, there's this, there's that. But the status of happiness simply doesn't change. You're just happy all the time. You don't need anyone to convince you to smile. You smile naturally. That is one of the major benefits, but it's also something that we all have to aspire to. People today are very, very depressed. Naturally depressed. Always depressed. The average American is on at least 2 different types of drugs. One to help him not commit suicide, and the other one to make him at least functional while he's not committing suicide, because the one that's making him not suicidal is making him want to go to sleep all the time. The reality is most people are depressed. They're depressed and they don't even know why. The reason is because their neshama is suffering. And they keep feeding their neshama with more materialism, more money, more cars, more physicality, intimacy, and things of that nature. So instead of their neshama becoming happier because their bank account grew, instead of their neshama becoming happier because now they have a wife, or now they have a husband, or now they have a car, or now they have a second house, and a third house, and a this and that, instead they actually become more miserable, more depressed. Why? Because their neshama that knows the truth is saying, you fool, I'm sick, and you keep giving me the wrong cure. I don't want more money. I want more Hashem. Without Hashem, Rabotai, there's no happiness. And the only way to arrive at Hashem is through His Torah. Whether you're a Jew or a Gentile. The only way to arrive at Hashem is through Torah. Anyone that has Hashem without the Torah, it's not the same Hashem. It's a different Hashem. It's a different God. Why? In order to identify who God is, we first have to know what the code is, what the instruction is, what does He want, what does He want. We have to get to know Him. And the only way to get to know Him is through His Torah. Some people think they talk to God. Somebody told me this recently. Yes, some person told me that they talk to God all the time, and God answers. I said, no, don't not believe her. Don't not believe him. It's true. Somebody talks to her. It's just not God. She thinks it's God. He thinks it's God. Most likely, these people make so many sins that they create a lot of demons. And the demons, they like to have fun with some people. They like to have fun with them. So what do? They come to them in nightmares. They come to them in visions. They come to them in all different aspects. Why? To have fun with them. What? By making them think they're talking to Moshe Rabbeinu. Making them think they're talking to their grandmother that died 50 years ago. Making them think that they're talking even to God. Why? Because it's fun for them. Don't ask me why. That's their fun. It's their hobby. They like to torture people. That's what they do. That explains a lot of people that say they saw somebody in a dream and so on and so forth. More times than not, it's sins that they saw. Their own sins torturing them. You have to be at a very, very high level of spirituality to have somebody critical visit you. Or there has to be some major reason. But people that think that they talked to God, that they became prophets, without even knowing the basic laws of modesty, without even knowing all of Halachot Shabbat, without even going over the Torah or even knowing what the oral Torah is, they think that God's talking to them. Somebody's talking to them, but it's definitely not God. But they're so far away from reality, you can't even help people like this. It's a lost cause. It's a lost cause completely. So, a person needs to know that in order for you to have the ultimate joy in life, there is only one set of instructions. And even in the beginning of this Mishnah, Chazal explained to us that if somebody ever wants to arrive at something called Ahavat Hashem, love of Hashem, they have to acquire these 48 items. Meaning, it's impossible for a person to arrive at Yirat Shamayim without worrying about Yirat Shamayim. It's impossible for him to get to the highest level of Yirat Shamayim without the lowest level of Yirat Shamayim. You can't just skip. It's impossible to get to the highest level of Yirat Shamayim, to Ahavat Hashem, to loving Hashem, without getting to the highest level of Yirat Shamayim. Because the highest level of Yirat Shamayim is the beginning of loving Hashem. And it's impossible to get to Ahavat Hashem without acquiring all 48 of these steps. That we haven't even gone over all of them. Meaning that for all of the people that are confused about what's required of them and how much they think they love God and they don't love God, the reality is that if you only feared Him, you'd actually be much happier. You'd actually be much more righteous. You'd have a much easier time serving Him and doing what He wants, and you won't question every single thing that happens in your life. But in order to fear Him, we must become modest also. We have to become humble. Because as long as we think that we're in control, we're never going to be humble. So, with that being said, we have many more to go. We have purity, we have shimush chachamim, dikduk chaverim, and so on, but we'll go over that tomorrow night, B'ezrat Hashem. In the meantime, if you have any questions, we continue for a little bit longer, but other than that, we'll continue tomorrow. Any questions? Okay, B'ezrat Hashem, I have a couple of books that I brought that we went over, but there's one that we didn't go over, so I guess what I was preparing to scare you, I'll do it tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem. There's a couple of interesting things, yeah. B'ezrat Hashem, I'll scare you tomorrow. Hashem didn't want you to get scared today. B'ezrat Hashem, we'll learn tomorrow. Tomorrow, I think we're down the street, right? Yeah. Aventura Isles. Shtabach Shema, I got it right finally. 6 months. Took me to get it right. So tomorrow night, we're down the street, Aventura Isles, B'ezrat Hashem. If you're going to come, you must RSVP. It's a gated community. If you don't RSVP, they're not going to let you in. And don't text me while in the middle of the shul, because as you can see, my phone is not even next to me. It's over there, so I don't answer the text, and you're just wasting time, and nothing's going to work. So please, RSVP. It's very simple. It doesn't cost any money to RSVP. Please do, and also try to come on time, so we can start on time. B'ezrat Hashem. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.